Me?
Yes. As I hide Jaclyn from the stream, our special guest who's coming on in a minute, and as we welcome people into the room, today is our last day of authority conversation. So we have over the last 3 days gone through most of the authorities in human design. If you're like, I don't even know what human design is, authority is your internal guidance system, which we would probably call your intuition. And the beautiful thing about human design is it gives you a map to your body and clarity on how to actually leverage this internal guidance. And so, welcome today. I see people coming in. Definitely post in a comment where you're from, and also if you have sacral authority, which is the authority we're coming to talk about today, or if it's not sacral for you, what you have, and anything else that you want to share. This is going to be an interactive session. This is one of many sessions on energy ergonomics, which is our new channel, my new channel focused on really understanding your internal energy and understanding how your energetics, A from Trenton, New Jersey, yes, how your energetics interact with the people around you such that we can create more inclusive and compassionate environments so that we can collaborate better, so we can make the world a better place. Speaking of collaboration, our guest today is Miss Jaclyn Michelle from Interior Creature. This is such a special moment because both of us work in the area of human design. Both of us have group coaching programs. Both of us do readings. Both of us have communities as well, paid communities. And I'm developing my online community, but Jaclyn's been rocking as a veteran in this space for a while. And we've decided that collaboration in this area is so important. And it's much more important than competition. So we're coming together to give you two different viewpoints, right, from two very different people, such that you can benefit from that and benefit from the diversity of our experiences. Today, Jaclyn is going to start by running us through sacral authority, what it looks like, what it feels like, where you can find that in your body. And I'm going to be jumping on the tail end of how do you actually feel it, heal with it, and flow with it. And so with that, I'm going to hand it over to Jaclyn. Also, fun note, we both have sacral authority. So this is a very fun session for us.
And sex.
Oops.
Oh, I was just
sorry.
It's okay.
Button.
You're trying to pass the. I hear it. I know. I was just saying. I used to live in New Jersey, so I was in Hoboken for a year. I love it. I love it.
I'm
love
laughing.
the Jersey.
I think my hand edited you.
It's okay. No, it's cool. You're totally fine. We've been all. I was sharing with Mélissa. I've been having tech issues today as well, so we're gonna be good to go though. So
but we love your handle, Sex and the Gay Christian.
I love that.
I thought it was hilariously funny that the moment you said sex, somehow it just went whoop.
It's okay. Just, we'll keep it clean. Keep it classy. Yay, Jersey. Okay, here we go. So let me share. So I am sharing my screen. Mélissa, can you see it?
It is coming through. Here we go. All right.
Awesome. So I'm going to take about 30 seconds to introduce myself first, and then we're going to dig into the real good stuff. Why you're here. What is sacral authority? What does it feel like? How do you locate it in your body? How do you let it guide your decisions? So as Mélissa said, my name is Jaclyn Michelle. I founded Interior Creature in 2018, a few years after I kind of started my own personal human design journey. I am a former kind of corporate person. I worked in the education space for about 15 years and ended my career in this very intensive corporate position. And it basically erased my life. I don't know if you've ever had a similar experience with a relationship or a friend where you just kind of get so enmeshed in the thing that you're doing that it almost you forget who you are outside of that thing you're doing for other people. And that was my job. And so when I quit, because my body basically, I was really overworking, overextending myself. My body basically crapped out on me. And I had to take a break. I was trying to figure out, who am I outside of who I was, right? I wanted to come home to myself. And when I was little, I was really into all things like esoteric, metaphysical. I was that kid I shared yesterday and the day before, where would go to the metaphysical section of the library, and I'd be pulling out books on like astrology and astral projection, and like hiding them under Sweet Valley High and like the Babysitters Club, like to like kind of appear like I didn't have, those kind of taste. But my mom like laughed. She's like, "No, we always knew you were witchy. Like it's totally fine." But anyway, so I turned back to practices kind of anchored in the spiritual, the esoteric, to figure out who I was. And human design ended up turning out to be like the system that gave me the most benefit and really was the most life changing. So I built Interior Creature back in 2018 because one of the things I noticed at the time was that there wasn't a lot of information online about human design, and the information that was there was opaque, was jargony, felt like up here. It felt very gate kept, and it felt very needlessly complicated. And so what I wanted to do was build the resource that I kind of wish I had when I was starting out, trying to make sense of the system for myself. So flash forward, my website Interior Creature helps about 20 to 30,000 folks a month just start the process of making meaning of their human design chart. And since I opened my virtual doors, I've given over 2,000 one-on-one readings. And just this past year and a half, I've been expanding my offerings past just readings. So I still do readings. They are my joy. I love introducing people to human design for the first time and making it really accessible and really practical. But I also offer readings at multiple entry points because I know there's a lot of folks out there like me who kind of went down the rabbit hole, started making meaning of their chart, and maybe they understand their centers, their authority, but want to go deeper. So I offer readings that kind of like you can kind of pick and choose what we talk about. There's like 3 different tiers, right? I also teach classes. Again, you told you I was in education for ages. You can't really take the educator out of me. So I teach classes on the human design system, like understanding how it works, how to utilize it. And I have 2 communities. One I'm going to tell you about a little bit later, but the one I'm really excited about sharing with you also, it's the Karmic Studies Elevator. I believe that human design is a amazing tool for deconditioning and for shadow work and like figuring out kind of how to come home to yourself, as Mélissa says, as I say, like it just, who am I outside of all of the things the world has told me to be? And so there is the Karmic Studies Elevator is a 6-month container where we do that very deep personal work, but we do it in community with other people who are also kind of walking those paths through the Shadowlands. So and if you already know a little bit about human design, I'm a generator with sacral authority. So we've got the same authority going on, but I'm a weird looking generator. I've got a overwhelmingly open chart, which a lot of times when you read about generators, they talk about them as if we're these very defined people, and not necessarily. I only have 3 centers closed, and most of the centers I have that are open are very empathic. And I'm also 1-3, right across the Garden of Eden. PowerPoint's my love language, so that's why I have all these slides built today. And last little thing, my passion outside of human design and astrology and gene keys is rescue, animal rescue. I have 3 adorable, fluffy rescue dogs. All are in various stages of sleeping right now. So hopefully they will leave us be. But if you happen to hear any like snorting, barking, ruckus in the background, that's my guys, my little harem of amazing men. I love my little boys. Okay, so we're going to start with sacral authority. So what is it? How does it feel? What does it look like or feel like in the body? How do you utilize it to make decisions? So I want to kind of back up a little bit first. One of the basic premises of human design is this idea that we want to try to drop out of our brains and drop into our bodies. So many of us, from the time that we exit the womb, we get a lot of conditioning about the proper way, quote unquote, to make a decision. We get told that we should be rational, we should be logical, we should be pragmatic, we should make a pros and cons list. And like, not everybody is wired to make decisions that way. In fact, in the next section, we'll be talking about environmental / sounding board authority. Like, that's a very small percentage of people that actually have to go with like what makes sense. The rest of us, the vast majority of people on the planet, according to human design, we actually have an intuitive voice that's like body level, that feels almost like responsive or reactive or instinctual, that tells us what feels like us and what doesn't, like what we feel, what feels expansive, what doesn't, what feels aligned, what doesn't, right? So one of the practices that we want to kind of think about is ways to drop out of our brain, kind of turn that mental, inner monologue off, or at least dim it a little bit, drop into our body and go, what is my body trying to tell me? And so today, the message from the body we're going to be thinking about is the sacral center. What is my sacral trying to tell me? Sacral authority is an authority that only generators and manifesting generators can have. You'll see all the types on the screen. And in human design, our type is determined by which centers we have open, which centers we have closed. Projectors, reflectors, and manifestors, by definition, can't have sacral authority because their sacral center is open. So a lot of the stuff we're going to be talking about today, if you happen to be a projector, reflector, manifester, you might experience when you're around other people, because one of the other rules of human design is when we have something closed and we're in company with someone who has that thing open, we temporarily close it for them. So you may, what I'm going to describe might sound familiar, but it can't be your decision maker because it's just not consistent enough in your body. Whereas for those of us who are generators and manifesting generators, even if you have emotional authority in your chart, because that's really the realm of generators and man-gens, is we either have sacral or we have emotional authority, and that's it. But if that happens to be, if it's defined in your chart, it's going to speak to you regardless of whether it's your authority or not. So today we're going to be honing in on what does it feel like and how do we listen to what the sacral is saying. And so the word wait in our strategy is actually a prompt, and it's there to remind you to stop, to listen to your sacral before taking action, before saying yes to something, no to something. It's not sitting in passive, like, sitting back passively and saying, I'm not going to do anything until the perfect thing comes my way. It's more of like, I mean, what's cool about being a generator and a manifesting generator is we're almost like never not responding. Like there's constantly things coming into our awareness, into our energy that our body is having reactions to, right? So our wait is really basically saying we need to stop, check in with ourselves, see, is it a yes? Is it a no? Is it not a response yet, where our body is just kind of like doesn't have enough data, enough intel? We want to feel into that authority before we commit, we take action, right? So in the chart, the sacral sits like right kind of where the belly button would, I guess, like metaphorically. And think of the sacral as like our battery for physical energy. It's our energy for work, play, sex, creation, anything we're going to physically do. The battery, our sacral, is powering us for that, right? The challenge is, though, it's almost as if there was like fine print in the contract that many of us forgot when we came earthside, which is that if we're going to have sacral authority, the thing that recharges that battery is joy, is excitement. And a lot of us sometimes think, we almost take that energy for granted. We think it's going to be there regardless of where I aim it. And that's absolutely not the case. Like when we're doing something that feels like a sacral yes, and we'll talk about what that feels like in a minute, our body will basically release energy joyfully to fill the container of the thing that we're going to do, right? So say it's like, ooh, maybe I love party planning. And I find out that we're, a friend that we're going to throw a surprise party for a friend. And I'm like, oh, I can't wait till I get to pick the decor and buy the cake and all that stuff. Like it feels like a get to. And what's cool is the body then is going to give you the energy requisite to kind of fill the container of the things you need to do. And it's going to recharge itself along the way. So you might end that day of like running around, getting all the party supplies, setting everything up. You might end that day feeling exhausted, but it's going to be this feeling of like deep satisfaction. Like I accomplished something, I was productive, and it felt good doing it. My back hurts a little, but that's okay because everything netted out is feeling really good, right? If it's something that we have to do, the body begrudgingly gives us that physical energy, but it makes us uncomfortable as it gives it to us because the body, unfortunately, likes to speak, especially the sacral, in the language of discomfort as a means of like getting us to not continue to give our energy and commit to that thing that our body just doesn't want to do. So say I was someone who hated party planning and I thought it was the worst thing in the world and I'd rather do literally anything else. If I spend all day like buying cakes and finding decorations and setting up, I'm going to get home and I'm going to feel so much more spent than maybe then maybe it would be typical for like the energy that was like expelled. Like running back and forth to the store. Like it's going to maybe feel like I ran a marathon as opposed to, just bought a cake and put up some balloons. Right. And you're going to feel frustrated at the end of the day. The frustration is our body's cue of letting us know the thing that I gave my energy to did not feel productive and aligned and joyful for me. And so it's basically the body trying to cue you to like not do it again. Unfortunately, and again, I know I say this to Mélissa all the time. Like she kind of teases me. I talk about capitalism all the time, but the structure that a lot of us are existing in right now prizes productivity, prizes hustle, prizes grind, prizes like pushing through. And a lot of us have gotten conditioned, especially as generators, because as generators and manifesting generators, we are the doers, the builders, the creators, the accomplishers. But we're not told as children, many of us, that that can be joyful. And you can pick the thing that you give that beautiful energy to. If you have the privilege and ability, you can aim that energy at something that also feeds you as you're feeding the world with your output, right? So, one of the things that we have, the tool in our body that we have to kind of help us walk toward the right things and away from the wrong things, is this sacral center. So, for many folks, and the sacral can feel a whole bunch of different ways. I'm sure if you read different websites, they'll tell you different ways that it absolutely feels. Just know it's a spectrum. And like there's some parts of it you might feel, some parts of it you might not. Some people actually make sounds when something's a sacral yes. So, like, for example, I was talking to a client yesterday, and a friend of hers had just asked her to go out to lunch, and she had mentioned the restaurant. It was my client's favorite restaurant. And she was like, "Ooh, please." And she noticed herself doing the ooh and like leaning up and leaning forward. And she's like, aha, that was clearly a sacral yes. That was clearly a very, instantaneous, my body has energy for that. It's joyful. Likewise, I know myself, like if there's something I don't want to do, my body will just reflexively go like, "Ugh," like I'll make a noise or I'll make a face. It's totally unconscious. It just like, you'll hear it in my tone or see it on my face that I'm like, oh, don't wanna. I always think of like the little kid prior to the tantrum who's like, no, 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 please don't make me. Like it's that kind of like, oh, kind of feeling. Physically, some people experience it as like a rush of excitement, a rush of energy to get started right now. I like to describe it as a get to. Like these are things you're excited to give your energy to. You can't wait to get started. I actually feel it sometimes like someone's tied a lasso around my belly button, and I feel physically pulled toward the thing. Like it's like my whole body posture changes, and I feel like I'm kind of being like compelled toward the thing. Like it's a magnet, right? Um, that said, the sacral no is kind of the inverse of that. People feel a rush of like energy, but like down to their knees and out their feet. Like they can feel a kind of dread, a sense of like, oh God, don't make me. Like, just this like anything I could do to possibly get away from it, right? I feel it as a physical contraction sometimes in my core as well. Like I'll literally feel my shoulders go in, my core contract. Like I'm like, oh God, don't want to. Sometimes even body language. It's expansive when it's a yes, it's contracting when it's a no, like crossing your arms, physically leaning away. So notice how your body reacts, notice how your voice reacts, whether it's a noise, whether it's pitch, whether it's tone, whether it's word choice. But if all of that feels really like my body doesn't do that, you are not alone. When I first left that corporate experience, I think I was working 80-hour weeks. Unfortunately, that's not hyperbolic. That was what I was logging. And I was just burnt out completely. And I remember reading about the sacral authority and closing the human design book and going, well, it's official. I am dead inside. I don't feel any of that. It took a while to reawaken my sacral. She speaks to me now. She did not. She was on a little silent strike for a while when I first came to human design. So what helped me kind of reawaken her was two different exercises. So one, I kind of thinking of things as like, what do I get to do versus what do I have to do? And I actually had a really good friend sit down with me and do an energy audit where she made me list out, like I had to go through my corporate schedule with her and list out what are the things I got to do on a daily basis. And we had a column for like, actually a chart paper for like things that were like, I don't really care either way. Because there is some stuff the sacral just doesn't react to. Like for me, it's unloading the dishwasher. Like I don't really care. It's not joyful, but it's also not something I dread. It's just something that gets done, right? Then there are things that are no's that I'm like, if I could delegate, eliminate, outsource, just, if there was a way to get it off my plate and either eliminate it completely or onto someone who enjoys it, that would be great. Those are my no's, those are my have to's. And then there's things that maybe we used to get to do, we haven't done in a while because maybe we've been focused on the wrong thing. So I call it doing an energy audit, and that can be really helpful to kind of figure out what those are and then start noticing yourself when you're around stuff that you enjoy. Like, what is your body doing? What is your voice doing? How does your energy feel versus things that you dread? Like, what does that no feel like in your body and how does it escalate for you? So in the sacral authority, sometimes it's referred to as like your fuck yes or your hell no. Pardon my cursing there. Some people experience it as this like, uh-huh, or an kind of feeling, like that's the noises, or that physical expansion or contraction, that rush of energy. The sacral is the second most powerful center in the body, only to the emotional solar plexus. So you might be here because you have emotional authority, but your sacral also speaks very loudly to you. That's because this is the second most powerful center, second only to that solar plexus. So if the solar plexus is defined, it is the authority. For those of us who have it open, the sacral then kind of steps up and takes that position as most powerful center. We want to use our sacral authority for both small and large decisions. So it might be something small like, oops, someone asked me to get coffee with them. Is it a get to or a have to? We can also use it for someone asked me to open a coffee shop with them and like go into business with them. Is that a get to or is that a have to? And again, only manifesting generators and generators can have it. The way that we utilize sacral authority is that is the thing we are waiting for. When we get any sort of decision comes our way, whether it's something generative, like we want to build something. Like when I was researching human design and I got the idea, like, man, I should write about this. I love writing. Writing gives me joy. And I love teaching. Teaching gives me joy. Like I should create something, right? No one asked me to do it. No one sat me down and said, hey, Jaclyn, I think you should blog about human design. I had the idea and my body responded in such this affirmative sacral, this gives me joy, this gives me energy, I can't wait till I get to. And that was what made it like really expansive. And that was my yes. And I just waited till I had that clear, full body, I can't wait to. And that I stepped toward it. I've also had people over the years ask me to do certain things with my website, certain ways to expand my business that my body has gone, oh, no, 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 no. And again, we want to try to be, if possible, when we have the privilege, the flexibility, the ability, we want to honor that sacral and let it kind of guide us toward the things that are for us and away from the things that aren't. So I'm going to stop there and I'm going to bring us back together. And I know this is the part where we ask for questions. So if anyone has any questions about sacral authority, what it feels like, what it sounds like, if you feel dead inside like me or like I did, let me know in the comments because like you're not alone. I'm not dead inside anymore. You can reawaken her, but definitely let me know. Like any comments, questions, feelings, poetry, interpretive dance.
Definitely. This is our first break. We'll have a second one for Q&A. So if you don't have immediate questions, feel free to ask them later. And then our handles are up. So at Curly Executive, at Interior Creature. That's how you can find us on the webs and on
the gram, on the YouTubes
as well. And then yeah, as we wait to see if any immediate questions come in, we will talk about a few of the things we have coming up. I see so far, so good. I love it. And we're going to give it like a minute or two. And then I'm going to come back and tell you all about how to use all the juicy information that Jaclyn just shared. And yeah, Jaclyn Michelle, sorry.
You can call me Jack. She can call me Jack.
I know.
Yeah. My parents call me Jack. No, you're totally good.
We're at work now. And so we have a first question. We're going to go ahead and answer that. And it's a great one. It's from Carolina. Hi, Carolina. So I always got confused by the wait prompt when it's not an obvious invitation, which thank you for clarifying. However, I also have the channel. Carolina, we have a little bit of your question that hasn't come through yet. So
I'm glad that was helpful.
Comment.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Keep going. Send it back to us, the second part of that, and we will finish that question once we see it pop up. In the meantime, Jaclyn, do you want to tell them about Catalyst?
Yeah. So Catalyst is my other membership community that I'm so excited. We're launching it actually this weekend. So Catalyst is for folks that are either starting their spiritual journey and are kind of learning the baby kind of first steps into these modalities like astrology, like human design, like the gene keys, and just want a community of folks that are also kind of like in it. Back, I know when I was starting out, like, again, I was that lonely kid. Like I was the only one reading about astral projection and astrology. It can feel very isolating sometimes when you're starting this journey. So Catalyst Spark rather is that community for folks just starting out. And we're having our first workshop this weekend. So tomorrow actually is our first workshop. We're doing the basics of human design. Where does it come from? How does it work? How do you read a chart? We're kind of, giving that intro level. And we have a book club. We meet every month and we talk about a specific text. But the other wing of Catalyst is also is the is Catalyst Fire. So what I found is I've been in two different places. I've been in that place where I'm kind of starting my spiritual journey and don't have folks to talk to and like want to make, those kind of friends and those kind of connections. But I've also now been in the place where sometimes I have higher level knowledge and I want to nerd out with the right people. And like having Mélissa in my life has been fantastic because we had that kind of mutual nerd language to speak. But that can also be really lonely, right? So Catalyst Fire is for folks who maybe are a little bit deeper into their spiritual journey, have maybe some of the language of some of these modalities, but they want the practical, the actionable, and the community, right? So in Catalyst Fire, for example, we're looking at shadow work through the lens of the human design chart. So that's going to be our first workshop. But basically, it's a membership community where we meet monthly. Catalyst Fire folks get access to a bunch of different workshops, but we do we meet monthly for a workshop and we meet monthly for a book conversation called a Catalyst Conversation. We're doing The Dark Side of the Light Chasers this month, which I'm excited by. So kind of a nice primer for shadow work. But yeah, it's lower cost and it's something that like I wanted to just kind of make available because I love nerding out about this stuff in community. So it looks like, Carolina, your question has to do with the channel of judgment. Okay. So channel of judgment's an interesting one because that also means then you've got your spleen defined, right? And spleen is connected to the root through that channel. What's interesting is the channel of judgment sometimes wants to move to solution, like immediately. The channel of judgment, you got, what is it, gate 18, that's literally like, how do we fix it? We want to fix it now. What are the patterns? And then 58's like, got to make the world better, got to leave it better than I found it. It's this pressure to take action immediately. And what's challenging, and I think that's, I'm going to imply what maybe the question is, so correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, you want to butt in, you want to offer your opinion, so you got to honor the wait first. Because one of the things I've learned through my friends who have the channel of judgment is sometimes it's just not your battle to fight. Sometimes it's just not the thing. And like, it's almost like we have to borrow from the projectors a little bit. I always say the channel of judgment is very kind of projector-like in that not everybody wants our advice, our guidance, our support. And sometimes if we're not recognized the way projectors are and we give that, it doesn't necessarily go over well. And sometimes that can actually be more frustrating. Or it's something where you're like, if I offer my advice, I'm going to get enmeshed in this thing. And I don't know that that's actually something I have the energy for or want to get involved in. So always honor the wait. Sorry, I don't know if you have something to say. I feel like I jumped on you.
That's okay. I love that we're jumping on the questions. No, I wanted to pop up her second piece, which says, I tend to internalize and want to, but in my opinion, da, da, da. Like, so you guessed the question too. And that's what I was thinking that you were going to ask, Carolina. I have a client who has this as well. And the work that we typically do is around her taking a step back and asking that question that Jaclyn said at the end there of, do I have the energy for this? And sometimes it's really about, do I have the energy for what me providing this solution is going to then unravel? Like, what comes next after that? And is this really something I should be doing now? So like, should I really be giving this opinion now? And so sometimes when we ask that question of, should I be giving this opinion now? That gives her sacral something to actually respond to and say like, okay, yeah, no, not now. And so that's how we'll approach that one. What's so interesting about just this whole kind of conversation around certain channels, you may have sacral authority, but then you will have certain channels that function as projected channels, which means those channels, for them to be effective, you actually have to wait to get an invitation if it has nothing to do with you. And so like, I have a fun one on my channel of structuring. I absolutely love it, but it's not something that I should be acting on every single minute when it's related to other people. I always have to take that pause and actually say, should I be sharing this right now? And for that one in particular, I literally will wait for the invitation. But these are things that are related to our interactions with other people. And so that's the other thing I want to call out. Whereas as we're talking about sacral authority within the context of this conversation, it's really about like our things for ourselves. And also like our interactions with our other people, but it's always about bringing it back to yourself, bringing it back to yourself. When I find myself in the mode of helping is often when I override my sacral because I make it about someone else.
And that's where I love the process of shadow work, because you start noticing these patterns that you have. And you start noticing these patterns that you have. And like, yeah, like sometimes we have to like, oh gosh, anyway, yeah, exactly.
Oh, no.
Rambling 100%.
And I think, unfortunately, I'm trying to figure it out. We were getting some
Nudes.
Yes, we were getting some nudes and we were getting some spams. And unfortunately, as a result, and I'm trying to figure it out, Carolina got put in a timeout unintentionally.
You're not in timeout. We love you.
So I'm trying to time out you, my love. And if we, for some reason, can't, feel free to DM us, send us a message if there's other follow-up questions. And I truly apologize. We were getting hit with a bunch of bots all at the same time.
Nudes. Just it was a lot. I told you, technology is fun today.
But I don't know how to undo what I did with Carolina. But Carolina, we will figure it out. And feel free to.
It wasn't me. Sex of the Gay Christians, like, it wasn't me. We understand. We totally appreciate that. Yeah, no, we know it wasn't you. You're totally good.
Carolina, feel free to reach out to me or Jaclyn. But for me, because I was the one who actually ended up clicking the button that I think inadvertently blocked you, feel free to reach out to me in DM, and I will gladly give you another like 10 minutes where I can answer any questions that you have on this. All right. So we will we'll keep going with this as we continue on the journey of thinking through how we are going to work with this sacral, how we take advantage of all the joys, pleasures, benefits of having this. What y'all are all going to receive, and we're gonna give Jaclyn a break, but we will bring her back. What we're going to all receive is an email. So if you haven't already, please sign up formally. So if you're watching this on the replay, if you haven't had a moment, sign up formally in email. What that is going to give you is the ability to receive the guide that I'll be putting out related to sacral authority. So within that guide, you are going to learn how to feel, heal, and flow. Feel, heal, and flow is my little action framework, because we need to first feel and get used to feeling what our sacral feels like when it talks to us. There's some healing, there's some shadow work that probably needs to be done if we want to really get to the place where we can follow it. And the flow is just the daily work of being able to consistently be in flow with it, stay in alignment. For me personally, so my name's Mélissa Peng. I have been on a journey of following my sacral for the last year, a little over a year now. And so for me, just like Jaclyn, I had a corporate career. So I spent about a decade in marketing. As a director of marketing, climbed the whole corporate path. I actually absolutely loved what I was doing, but the environment wasn't working for me. And so over time, I decided to start helping women start their businesses in the areas of their passion. I realized I had so much passion, so much creativity. I was a lot more multi-passionate than I realized. I'm a manifesting generator, 3-5. If you know incarnation crosses, I'm a sleeping phoenix, so I like to reinvent myself. And so as I was going through this process, I bumped into a client, a couple clients. First, some clients who struggled because with me and my sacral authority, they didn't have the same authority as me. And so I was running them through systems where I was able to give them a bit of my energy and push them through hurdles. And then afterwards, when it came time for them to continue doing the work themselves, they couldn't sustain the pace or the energy of what we had built or the system that we created for them. I was also seeing that I would start things, pick them up, put them down. And so I worked for a while around my multi-passionate nature, but eventually I got a client who just could not handle the pace and who brought me to human design. So after finding human design, I went in, I was like, okay, if this is how it works, then I want to try it. And also I need to test this to make sure that it is good to go for my clients. And so in testing it, I really, I went deep. I said, I'm only going to do things that are a hell yes from now on. And I'm going to try to do nothing else. That's it. From now on, we're following the sacral. It has taken me on a beautiful journey that also included stopping my business altogether for parts of it. I would say almost. I had like a couple private clients, but I pulled back my group coaching program. I took a break from that. It took me on a journey to doing a lot of deep work on my marriage, helping my husband in his career. My mom lives with me now, so it's cleaned up a bunch of family things. And I traveled to Jamaica, Tulum, Miami, France, different places. And in each place that I stopped, I found another part of me, including my ancestry. And so now I've embraced an entire different level, frankly, a different level of existence at this point. And my lineage as the great granddaughter of a medicine woman. And so all of this from just following my sacral. And now it has finally said, yes, we can come back and do business stuff. And I'm very thankful because it's time. But all of this to say is you never know what route the sacral is going to take you. Sometimes it is very twisty, turny. But one of the biggest things really is faith. And knowing that when we trust our intuition, what we build, it's just amazing. And now I think the last thing I really want to say is I am in such gratitude of my village now. Because as I've gone through this journey, the people I've magnetized to me, the opportunities, right now it's like instant manifestation mode. It's unreal. Like, I don't believe it. Sometimes I'm like, is this really real? Jaclyn can attest to that. I'll be like, is this person real? Like, is this thing real? And so that's what I would love for all of you to follow this authority. Find ease, peace in your life, and find all of yourself and come home to yourself and really feel whole. My whole theme for this year is finishing whole. I found like finally feeling whole is just another level. So I could keep talking about this forever, but I won't. I will get into why we are here. So jumping into sacral authority, I'm going to give you a various list of things that you can do. For my note takers in the room, do not freak out. All of the things that I say will come back in email in a beautiful guide. Let me see if I can show you one. And here in a beautiful guide that looks like this. So you will get a link. So definitely be checking your emails. They're going to come out next week. And it will have your authority. This happens to be the one for emotional. And then it'll have the replay and we'll go through each of the pieces, right? The feel, the heal, and the flow. Okay. So that is coming. But for right now, I would love for you to just engage with my voice. We're going to have a conversation. So sacral presence, 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 presence. All of this is about getting into your body and not allowing the mind to override your body. So anything that we can do to increase our presence, meditation, breathwork, yoga, dance, like anything that gets us feeling the body again is fabulous. One of my favorites these days is breath work, mainly because I can do it at any time, anywhere. And when you get really good, you can drop right into the body and you can do it quickly. I wanted to say hi to Mia, who just joined us, and everyone else who is joining. I love it. I love it. And I have some things for you for manifesting generators specifically coming. The second piece is just this reminder that the sacral oftentimes is not proactive, it's responsive. And so sometimes the response is a string of no's before it gets to a yes. That is something I've had to learn, meaning with my husband, he has sacral authority as well. He's very open and I am not that. And so trying to figure out what he wants and what he needs can be exceptionally frustrating for me. And I've had to embrace like the list of no's, which means giving options. So give yourself options, option after option after option, and see what happens. So sometimes going to dinner is like, do you want Chinese? Do you want Mexican? Do you want this? Do you want that? Do you want this? Do you want that? And it's no, 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 until we get to something that's like, oh, actually, yeah, that sounds good. So getting comfortable with your no making lists of options for you so you can really dig into, give yourself something to respond to is helpful. I love when I can get someone else to give me the options, because then it's a lot easier for me to respond. Sometimes I will even write the options down, give the list to the other person, and then say, can you please, can you please read these options? I love this, right? My husband is finally catching on to the list of yes or no questions. Exactly. The next one is how and now. Practice how and now. So many times I have other defined centers in my body that'll be like, yo, this is a yes, something you want, especially my heart center. It's like, you want this. I don't want this right now. That's what my sacral often says. I don't want this in this way. One of the big lessons for me is that when we are in abundance, it can be sometimes difficult because, especially when we're not used to having everything flow and come to you abundantly, it gets difficult to understand that we get to choose the how, right? We get to be like, actually, I'm really grateful for this, and this is exactly what I want, but this is not the way I want to receive it. And so getting with the now and the how. Do I want this now? Or do I have, specifically, the question is, do I have the energy for this now? Do I have the energy for this in this way? Is there a different how that might light me up? So when you're getting that pull towards something and it's not something, or even if it's something you kind of feel like you intellectually want, right? Look at the how and the now. You might be able to find a different iteration that works really well for you. Honestly, the how versus the now is my number one tip for this. It saves me every time. The other thing to remember, and this is big, is the sacral is moment to moment to moment. Meaning something might be a yes right now and a no in 2 minutes from now, because we're receiving data moment to moment to moment. And so you might be like, yeah, let's go. Oh, wait, that's some extra information. That's a no now. It went from 100% to 99%. And that 99% has made it a no. Right? So that is real. And that's something to know. If you are really someone who overrides yourself constantly, I call it like the 30-day gut check, right? And so go through 30 days. I've done this with people, and for every single decision, check in with your sacral. Every single decision, check in with your sacral, check in with your sacral. And you'll start noticing, whether it's easy, whether it's hard, when it's talking to you. And so just cultivating a practice of actually checking in, because so many of our decisions can be autopilot decisions or decisions based on emotions. So sometimes when we believe, one of the things Jaclyn mentioned, which is really awesome advice, is like sometimes that ooh can be like the trick. You're like, oh, that's my sacral response. What I also found out, sometimes that's my emotional response too. And so I've had to actually say, like, wait, what is going on here? For example, this morning I went to Starbucks and I saw that the sugar plum Danish was available again. And the sugar plum Danish is something that I loved for a long time and that I would consistently get for a long time. And so every time I see the sugar plum Danish, there's an emotional response, like, it's back. And that backness, like that. But then I actually said, wait, let me check in with my sacral. I don't want this. This is just a trained emotional response. And so sometimes this is kind of like the deeper dive of it, especially when we get really good at it. So this might be the 2.1 advice. Sometimes it's really important to, over time, and this is what I think the shadow work helps with, especially, start paying attention to emotional responses that happen in autopilot that are not actually our sacral response. Okay. Shadow work helps very well with this. And then just like taking yourself out of the emotion. So emotion is going to feel like anxiety. It can even be massive excitement, but it's not going to feel calm. It's not going to feel calm in any capacity. And what I found more and more is that my sacral is actually, even when my sacral is excited, it's grounded. Okay. A joy audit. So I think Jaclyn referenced some like the same thing. She called it an energy audit. Like this is the get to versus have to versus want to. I love doing that. And I'll do that with time. I'll specifically look at how much time, what proportion of my time am I spending on the things that really light me up. What I will find sometimes is that people who ignore their sacral will have lots of like time in neutral space. And then it's a question of, okay, why don't we change that schedule up a little bit? Language. I have to. I started having someone track every time they say, I have to. This is something I have to do. This is my responsibility. I should do this. That type of language is really good for you to start realizing, oh, wait, maybe I need to go check in with my sacral on those things, right? Because technically there's nothing you have to do. There are things you get to do. There are things you choose to do, right? There are things you want to do. There are things you love doing. There's nothing you actually have to do. We always have a choice. So if I'm saying I have to, why is that? You know? Body language. Body language is amazing. With my clients, I'll record them and have them watch themselves. When I have this client who calls me and she's like, I just want to make sure I'm reading this sacral right. And oftentimes the minute she starts talking, I could be like, yeah, that's a no. Yes, that's a yes. Because for some people, you can see this all over your face. And then I'll send her that recording back and say, check yourself out. And so sometimes I'll tell people, talk about the thing, record yourself, and then watch yourself. You know? Because the other fun thing is sometimes people have been trained in a language of complaining. It's so funny. My husband got this job offer. He comes out, he's kind of complaining and worrying about it, but he has this massive smile. And he's like, yeah. He's like, yeah, I don't know if I can really do this right now. And you could see all the excitement, the energy. And so then I showed him that and he's like, oh, whoa. So the body language can get really relevant in terms of helping you start to understand where you're maybe not listening to yourself internally. Practice asking clarifying questions. That's a big one. Many of us don't ask the questions, so then our sacral doesn't have something to respond to. So if you've been conditioned out of asking questions, then it can be difficult to get the inputs you need so that your sacral can respond. Get clarity on pressure and rush and where it occurs in your life. So for me, now that I've gotten better and better at following my sacral, I can know when I've shifted. So coming back to that moment to moment thing, it might start off really great and then the pressure builds up. And then I feel like I'm rushing and I'm like, oh shit, I haven't checked in with my sacral again. Because that's when I'll say, okay, actually at some point in time, this has turned into a sacral no, but I'm just still going, especially for my generators, because you'll just keep going. My man gens, it might be a little easier to pivot. And even that can be problematic because now you've started something and you're pivoting when you might have, if you had continuously checked in with your sacral, known from the get that you're good. So this daily practice of writing a to-do list and then actually looking at it daily and being like, do I feel really good about all the things on here? Especially when we're in control of that, that's relevant. If you're not in control of the things, then over time, it might be some changes we have to make in life and we can choose to make in life. Heal. So heal is my framework for really doing the deep shadow and abundance work. Because I have Jaclyn here, she goes really deep with the shadow work. I go kind of deep. It gets deep in the revelations, but we don't spend as much time. I highly recommend Jaclyn's, all of Jaclyn's program, but especially her karmic studies, because that's where you get to really excavate the things. But as we are thinking about heal, that's hold space, right? Hold space for our feelings, hold space for our sacral, expand the vision of what is possible, take aligned actions and let go, let flow. When you get your guide, a lot of the areas that have questions in, right? What conditioning do I have around instinct and instinct and gut decisions. Where am I shoulding all over myself? I should do this, I should do that. Where do I compromise on a regular basis? Do I put my needs first? How patient am I? Are my decisions, right? What's my relationship with responsibilities? So I have a bunch of different questions in that. A lot are around our relationship with responsibility, our thoughts around mental decisions versus gut decisions, body decisions. Confidence is a big one. A lot of times when we override our sacral, it just comes down to confidence. Confidence, value, self-worth. We just don't believe in ourselves. The more kind of emotional triggers, especially around stuck points. If there's something that you're really unhappy about in your life, but you keep making decisions that don't support you changing that, that could be a cue that there's an emotional trigger right there. And then faith, right? Sometimes there is this thought around, I don't have the privilege to follow my sacral. And there are real discussions around privilege. And we still have choices. And sometimes those choices will put us in extremely uncomfortable situations. And sometimes we still make them. And I will honestly say that I've made some very uncomfortable choices in this last year of following my sacral. And for me, they have all come full circle and worked out in different ways. And so faith, and even just like this bigger belief in something beyond the things that we can think through, comes up a lot when we think about following our intuition in general. And then finally, flow, right? Once we figure this out, we've got to keep it going. We've got to flow with it day to day. And so a love letter to your authority, right? I love to write to our authorities and actually write down like what we truly believe. And so the frustration, all of those things that we feel like, hey, sacral, I hate you. You're not talking to me. Hey, sacral, last week you told me to do this thing that messed up my money. And I just don't know when you're going to actually help me get it back, right? Like whatever it is. And then I like to rewrite it with an empowered version, right? Sacral, I love you. You have stopped me from moving into more decisions that overcommit me and draw out my energy, right? I love you. I'm eating better dinner now because I'm consistently voicing my actual opinion. Whatever it is, like write that empowered version and start owning a relationship with this part of your body. Truth affirmations to build trust in yourself. The more you trust yourself, the easier it is to not override these bigger decisions. For my planners, embracing moment to moment. That's a big one. I've done a lot of work with Eckhart Tolle. I'm messing his name up, but I've done some work with him recently. I call him Tolle. I call him Tolle. I have done different exercises and really being in the now. And that's been extremely helpful because your sacral is talking to you in the now. And then specifically from business, a lot of my work has to do with business coaching and people building businesses, your teams, understanding that potentially repetitive no is super helpful, letting them know your process. Brainstorming is wonderful because then you get multiple hows, multiple options to respond to. Building for change, my manifesting generators, knowing that some of our journey is picking things up and putting things down. You can pick things up and put things down, but it's a lot easier to do that when you build things for change and you have systems in place where you know this could change later. Let me build this so that if tomorrow I decide that I'm not going to be a business coach anymore and I'm starting a crystal company, I know, true story, I know that I can still make some money off of evergreen content or whatever it is. Know that every time there is new, plan for changes, especially changes in timeline. Every time you start something new, even if you think you've done this before, this is a perfect example for me. Jaclyn has had to flow with some of my sacral things because even though I've done this a million times, I haven't done this specifically related to human design with this specific. And so I was like, oh, whoa, I'm getting a sacral no in different ways right now. We got to tweak some plans. And again, I have a partner who understands this and knows this. So that communication, super helpful. And then knowing that something's new, I'm planning for changes, just saying that to someone can really help. And then you know some of your wants and do not wants right away. start writing them down. Know that they can change. But if you start with a baseline list, that can be really supportive in business relationships. So that is all of the advice. Hopefully that has been helpful, that has given you a nugget for today that you can say, oh, I didn't think about that. Definitely drop some thoughts in the comments. We've got another 5 or so minutes to answer any questions that you may have. And again, Carolina, if you can still hear us and I blocked you, feel free to DM me if you have any questions on Instagram or post on Facebook or LinkedIn where you will not be blocked from. Any thoughts, Jaclyn? Because Jaclyn, I know you also have sacral authority.
I love that you mentioned the pivoting for man gens versus like, you're right. I'm a pure generator. And sometimes like once I'm in, I have a hard time like getting the horse to move in a different direction. But I can't tell you how many clients I've worked with over the years that feel this tremendous guilt, and it's conditioned guilt about not following something through all the way to its like, projected conclusion. It's interesting. There's a gate in our chart, gate 29, which is in the sacral, and gate 29 really wants to be the gate that like follows all the way through. And sometimes we have to like reconfigure our own internal definition of what does it mean to finish, and like, have I gotten out of it when I need to get out of it? Even if it's not what society, others would say is the conclusion, sometimes I've learned all I need. And the sacral led me to as much as I needed to know. And it's okay that I put it down. Like, we don't need to finish everything we start. That's a great EFT. If you do EFT or tapping, like that's a great, like, I don't need to finish everything I start. It's okay and safe for me to pivot. Like, those might be things that are super helpful to kind of like work on that subconscious reprogramming. Like, it's okay to pick things up and put them down. I always think of that, what's the gym that does, that's their commercial, it's like Planet Fitness, like they've got the guy like, I put things up and put them down, like that. Just that's what kept popping in my head, this guy doing like weightlifting.
I'm laughing.
I don't know. I used to consume way too much TV before I started listening to my sacral. That's that neutral space of like, I fill it with things I'm looped and conditioned to do. And like, if you stop and ask yourself, am I get to watch this right now, or am I just doing it to fill time? Like,
Yeah. That one's a good one. Especially if you do the 30-day thing, you're just like, oh my gosh.
Yep.
There are so many things like I just do.
Yeah. And we don't even realize we're stuck on these loops.
A little loop.
Mm-hmm. That's why I'm so passionate about like turning off autopilot and like getting really aware of our patterns, and then we can choose, right? We're not stuck in them.
Yep. So I'm giving people like 2 more minutes to post any questions, comments. If this was really helpful, definitely throw that up. And know that the guide is going to be coming sometime next week, and the replays will be coming through tomorrow or Sunday. Yeah, I'm still working right now. The other thing that I didn't say, but is kind of fun, so I'm working now on a lunar calendar. And so I take breaks, and it's been really important to me because I have a 2-week period each month where I don't work with clients, right? And I get out of other people's energy. That's been really important for me because that's also the time to check back in with my sacral and just say like, am I doing a good job? Because I would find that when I'm overriding my sacral, it's typically because I'm trying to help someone else. And then I get into that loop, and it's hard for me to stop that if I don't have a break from the actual energy of helping. And so I take that time to help me and to work on my creative projects, and I'm still working. It's just literally having that distance from clients and from my family sometimes, because I'll just be in the studio. It's really supportive. So that's just another thought around how have I planned my schedule. And if it's not as easy to do it day to day, do I have some consistent time, space in my own energy so that I can ask that real question for myself?
Yeah, I think that's so key. It's so much is written in human design about like projectors, manifestors, reflectors, get out of other people's energy. And they speak about generators and man gens as for these like doers, we're like these bulldozers, we just keep going. No, like I was sharing, your husband and I are wired very similarly. We've got spleen, sacral, root, and that's it. All of that openness, it can be exhausting. So yeah, finding time to get in your own energy and get clear, like best thing I've ever done for myself.
And thank you so much, Mia, for the comment. Thank you for the engagement.
Mhm.
And yeah, I wanted to take 1 minute and just tell you about what's coming for me. So in addition to the guides, I'm going to be bringing back my membership club workflow. Club workflow, though, is really focused on flowing with the cosmos. So it is a one part learning yourself week by week by week with the different human design transits. We'll also throw in some lunar cycles in there because I'm obsessed with the moon now. And then in addition to that, you'll also get business guidance, specifically in the area of energy ergonomics. So how you flow with other people. If you don't have the transit, you'll get inclusivity prompts around how you're responding to people who are not wired like you. The goal being that over time, you'll not only learn yourself, but you'll learn the lens you view the world with, and you'll learn how other people present, such that you can have better collaborations and work better with yourself, with others, and the universe. I'm also launching Beeline for Wonderland, which is my new and improved, right, group coaching program that helps you build your Wonderland, whether that's business or life, but that has a clear focus on doing it in a way that aligns with your design. So everything that we're doing is birth chart informed. And it's just a new method, a new mode. And I love it because it allows me, as someone, especially someone who has sacral authority, when we're giving support and advice to others who don't, understanding design is just like, it's next level because we have that oomph.
Mhm.
And it doesn't always translate to others in this. Well, actually, sometimes it often translates to others, but then they crash and burn later. So that is
Got to be supportive.
it's a game
Yeah.
changer, right? We have to, and I think that's the last note I'll make is like, as someone with this authority, it is easy sometimes to bulldoze other people in your life and other people that you work with.
And if you don't think you've done it, you've done it.
Without realizing it.
Yes. Doesn't mean you intended to, but yes.
And so I would highly recommend, I recommend it for everyone, but especially our sacral decision makers. I would highly recommend, if you haven't already, sign up for the other sessions so that you can learn about other authority types. When I understood that some people just didn't have a gut, like I was like, what the fuck? Like, how do these people live? And also like, why has no one told me this?
Yeah, that was what spleen was like for me. I'm like, wait, not everybody gets the weird tummy thing that I get. Like, that's not universal. Like,
you can't really figure out what you want. How does that, like, so really important. Like, oh, is that why I talk so much? Like, I need a sounding board. Like, so again, this is an amazing practice, and then keep us posted. And I know we're over, so but I still want to give you 1 minute, Jaclyn, to talk about karmic studies.
Oh, yeah. So Karmic Studies is our 6-month container. We go deep into the shadow work and we basically work together in community and solo to excavate all those different parts and pieces of our chart. But we really get into those autopilot tendencies that we have. Like, where do I do without being intentional? Or what have I been conditioned to think about very specific things? Yeah. And so when you come out on the other side, you'll have built connections with people walking the same path as you, but you're also going to have like an established shadow work practice. You're going to understand all of your placements and how they inform maybe like default behaviors. And it's like taking your agency back. It's the same practice I've been doing for myself since I started kind of working with human design, just now made replicable and actionable for others. So I'm excited. If you want to join us, please. I'm enrolling 3 more people between now and the end of the year. I've got room for 3 folks. So if you want to be one of the 3, let me know.
Awesome. And I'll see you there. I laugh because I forgot we have to jump over to the other session.
Yeah, we have to go talk about environmental and lunar authority. So we will see you soon. Thank you so much, everyone.
Bye.